Hello, everyone. Welcome to the EJG3 show. This is your host. I am here with Alex Brooks. Alex, welcome back to the show.
Appreciate it, Eddie. Appreciate for having me on again. We're talking about the NFL once again, as June 1st is here and past, and now we just gotta recap a wild week of NFL action. It feels like Christmas in June for the NFL right now.
It really has. It was a wild week. Let's start it. We had an epic trade. I gotta admit, I did not see this coming. Myles
No,
Garrett has been traded to the Rams. The Browns got edge rusher Jared Verse and 2027 first round pick and a 2020 second round pick and a 2029 third round pick. Um, Number one, what was your reaction to the trade?
I was honestly like, I was shocked. I was really shocked. I did not think that a Myles Garrett trade would end up happening. I knew that there was rumblings throughout like a couple of years now that Myles Garrett didn't want to be in Cleveland, but I thought with the contract that he signed last offseason with that extension, I thought he was going to be in Cleveland for years and, for the rest of his career. But knowing that this trade package came back, I mean, I understand why the Browns wanted to do it because they were probably trying to bank off of Myles Garrett's career year, historic season, one of the best seasons by an NFL edge rusher. But honestly, I know we're going to talk about it a little bit more, but the trade package that they got back, a little light in my opinion, going from Jared Verse, a first round pick, and you don't get another first round pick, that's a little disappointing on Cleveland's end.
Yeah, look, I mean, number one, for the Rams' perspective, they're trying to go all in.
Yeah.
Matthew Stafford. How many years left does he have in the tank?
Hmm.
We know Sean McVay. There's been rumblings he might want to go to broadcasting. Who knows? So
Yeah.
they went all in. Got Trent McDuffie from the Chiefs. Uh, Now they have Myles Garrett. And let's need their GM. They kind of say, screw those picks, and
Yeah.
which there is a benefit of, hey, let's just go out and grade a player. But then again, you want to build your future. But if you have a championship window, I'm always leaning towards being more aggressive
Mhm.
in the off season. Trades, try to find the best team as possible when you have a Super Bowl window like this.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And when it comes to LA, I think that is going to be the biggest thing that they're trying to draw. I mean, the first time, the last time that the Rams were in the Super Bowl, they were hosting the Super Bowl in LA. And now that the Super Bowl is in LA again, it's not a coincidence that the Rams are trying to get back here. Not just, they want to get back to the Super Bowl, but they know how much of a success it was to get and host that game. They want to do it once again. But when we kind of just talk about how the Rams just kind of have built their team when you were saying just kind of thrown away their future. I mean, I'm all in for them to go throw away these picks because the last pick, the last first round pick they had, they picked a quarterback, so they might as well just give away those other picks if they can't get that one right. We'll see if Ty Simpson ends up doing anything in the league, but right now I think the Rams are the favorites in the NFL.
Yeah, yeah. But and Sean McVay uh was asked, hey, is there a possibility Aaron Donald could come back?
Yeah.
Do you think there's a possibility that he might return to the
Yeah,
Rams?
yeah, I think it's like I would say right now, I think there's like a 50 to 65% chance that he returns. So that's a little bit more than, it was like a month ago, because a month ago, if you asked me, it'd be 0%. Right now, I think that there might be some conversations that he could be back. And, he's been training ever since he retired. And I think if they're trying to go back to the Super Bowl and they're trying to, have a good run at this thing, I mean, if Aaron Donald's all in, and they feel like that the team is, ready to go. I mean, you might as well get number 99 back in here. And I know that a lot of people in the NFL are going to think it's going to be unfair, but the Rams, we've seen this with multiple guys in the past. We've seen it with Tom Brady. He's went into retirement, then he came back, just a
Yeah,
couple months
but
later. So
yeah, but
yeah,
he wasn't. it's not the same because he kind of
No,
never
yeah,
really retired. Aaron Donald's been out of the league for what, 1 to 2 years, something like that.
yeah.
And I'm gonna say no. We love to dream. Oh, Aaron Donald's
Mhm.
gonna come back with Myles Garrett. That's gonna be a dominant defense. I just think Aaron Donald, he's battled through some injuries. I think, he's been living a good life, being retired.
Yeah.
I just don't see it coming back. I mean, look, I think the NFL is a brutal sport. Do you really want to be injured and bruised up again? I just don't see it happening.
No, I get that. I mean, it's also a legacy thing. I mean, you retire at the top of your game. Why would you want to come back? Like if it was, if I was in Aaron Donald's shoes, I wouldn't come back, but I feel like with just everything that's kind of circulating right now, I wouldn't be surprised if he does come back, but no, I get what you're saying. Like you don't want to, you know, sacrifice your body, especially for another season if you've been out for a couple of years. And also the legacy thing. You want to go out on top. He did go out on top getting that Super Bowl. And, it's not a guarantee that the Rams are going to get to the Super Bowl. So I would say to, just stay retired.
Yeah, and look, he's also 35 years old. So,
Right.
um, but back on the Myles Garrett conversation. Look, he demanded a trade before he got that large contract. Then the
Hmm.
Browns restructured. He's going to a good team and a team that's going to be leading most of the time. I'm excited to see what happens.
Hmm.
Look, he was great in Cleveland last year. I'm just curious, can he be even better? I mean, I don't think 20 sacks, something like that, is realistic, but he'll be a force.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, he's going to be a dominant defender for the Rams. I mean, he's going to be someone who's going to have, double team on him every single time. But that's the thing about the Rams defense. I mean, they're building it. It's very young. You got, Braden Fisk there. You got Byron Young there. Like you have some guys on that defensive line that they're not scrubs. They are really good, homegrown players that you're putting on this defense. And knowing that the Rams are just, they were just a game away from getting back to the Super Bowl last year, and they've just kind of been on the doorstep ever since they won the Super Bowl back in 2021. So they're trying to get back, and they're trying to take advantage of this Matthew Stafford window. But yeah, Myles Garrett, I don't think, like what you were mentioning, I don't think he's going to have that 20 plus sack season, but I could see him having, 15 to 16 sacks next season and being, a menace for the Los Angeles Rams.
Right, yeah, no. Look, obviously the Rams, like you said a couple minutes ago, they're the favorites.
Mm,
Um, I will say this. This is the NFL. A lot of people are pumping them up, they're gonna win the Super Bowl. This is the NFL. We know that the favorite doesn't always win it.
no.
So I don't I think they're gonna be really good, but it's a health and be honest with you, man, how is Matthew Stafford gonna play? He's 37 years old. Is he going to be having that MVP season like last year? Who
Yeah.
knows? I mean, obviously they have a talented team, but Nakua had some issues. I think he went to rehab. I know it looks awesome, but you have to play out the season. Like I said, injuries. How's Matthew Stafford's going to look? I'm just saying, let's just hold on with the Super Bowl talks. Let the preseason say it. Had the season play out.
Yeah, I mean that's it. I mean, the NFL is not played on paper. Like that you have to go in, you have to play the games and the Rams are going to have a, difficult schedule. I know that they might be favored in most of those games, when we look at it on paper, but like as you were mentioning, injuries. Matthew Stafford was dealing with an injury last year in his MVP season. He was dealing with that injury. When is that going to come up to him and when is that going to affect him, for the most part? Last year he was able to, kind of take a little bit of a step back, but yeah, or like take a step back with his dealing with the
They
injury,
rested
but
him in training
exactly,
camp,
yeah.
which
Yeah.
that's what the Rams like to do. They like to rest guys.
Mm,
Um, but on the Cleveland side, look, we know what's going on. They're the reason why they traded Myles Garrett because Deshaun Watson or Shedeur Sanders are not the answer. So they're trying to tank, try to get a franchise quarterback. And look, they got a quality player in Jared Verse. Obviously, you're not on a winning team, but I think if they can get the guy at quarterback, who knows? I think the Browns could be pretty good soon, but it's also the Browns.
Yeah, I mean, Cleveland getting Jared Verse is a huge asset. I think he is a very up and coming edge rusher. He could be a top five edge rusher in a couple of years. But when we look at the other draft capital, you're getting a 2027 first, a 2028 second, a 2029 third. So, like, you're not getting multiple picks in one draft. You're spreading it out over a couple of years, which could help. But also, when you're looking at the value of those picks, over that time, it's like, okay, a 2027 first round pick, the Rams are going to do what they need to do. That's not going to be as valuable as maybe, say, a 2027 and a 2028 first. So, interesting trade package there. We'll have to see how that plays out. But if the Rams get a Super Bowl, we're going to look at this and say, the Rams won another trade or they won another Super Bowl. So they're the winners of the Myles Garrett trade. But, it remains to be seen.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's go to another trade that happened during the week. We knew that this was going to happen. AJ Brown was heading
Hmm.
to the Patriots. We didn't know what the package was, but um, the Patriots received a 2028 first round pick and a 2027 fifth round pick. Let's go to the Patriots' perspective. Look, I think they got a good wide receiver. They got a number one. Obviously, they lost Stephon Diggs. Um, I think AJ Brown, look, he was coached by Mike Vrabel, with Tennessee. So obviously they have a good relationship. I think AJ Brown has plenty of stuff to prove, and I think he's still a good wide receiver. Obviously, he had a lot of drama with the Eagles, and I think that will be gone. And now he's at a new setting, and obviously the Patriots won the division last year without a quality good wide receiver like AJ
Hmm.
Brown. So I think this is a good move for the Patriots.
I do too. I mean, this is a move that the New England Patriots had to make. They had to get a number one wide receiver for Drake May, especially with Stephon Diggs not being on the team anymore. And, he's not that number one wide receiver that he was in Buffalo. Like he is, past his prime when it comes to being a number one. But when we look at AJ Brown, he still has the ability to make game-changing plays. I mean, I remember, as an Eagles fan, seeing him make multiple game changing plays with the Eagles, especially him, helping the Eagles get to two Super Bowls and winning Super Bowl 59. So he still has a lot of, championship pedigree, playoff success. And that's going to definitely translate to New England. I just think when you look at the drama and you look at all of the things that happen there, it's just a, kind of not a sign of concern for New England because I think that they will be able to manage it under Mike Vrabel, but it's always just kind of a thing that you can look at because if, AJ Brown's not getting the numbers that he should be getting or thinks that he should be getting, it could be a little bit of a slippery slope. But I think with that offense and trying to get AJ Brown involved in New England, I think it's going to be fine.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And look, obviously he had a poor Super Bowl and he didn't have a great playoff run.
Mhm.
But look, I think Drake May is still a good quarterback. You know, obviously he played terrible. We all know that. But I think, he was in his second year. I think he's just gonna get better. I mean, he still has the same coordinator, the same coach. Nothing's kind of changed. So I think that's a good thing for um, Drake May.
Yeah, no, Drake May is, he was very, like, I would say overhated during his playoff run because honestly, I mean, that is something that, Jalen Hurts went through the previous one. And, knowing that he didn't have a lot of playoff success and then he turned it up in the Super Bowl. But when it comes to kind of the bright lights and it comes to now going into a tougher schedule, that's going to be kind of the benchmark that everybody's going to look at if the New England Patriots are going to be for real this season. Is this going to be something where they were benefiting on a schedule because that's all people are talking about? Or is this going to be this is the return of the Patriots and they got to do, they go back to the playoffs and make a deep playoff run. So it's all about consistency when it comes to Drake May. And that's going to be something that we're going to look out for.
Yeah, well, obviously sitting here today, maybe I'm just a biased Bills fan, but
Mm,
I just don't think the Patriots are. I mean, obviously they went to the Super Bowl. I could easily see them missing the playoffs this year.
mm.
Um, with all the drama with Mike, you don't know how AJ Brown's gonna be. I could see them slipping a little bit as we
Mhm.
sit here today.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a, it's not I wouldn't say that would be a crazy hot take because, New England is definitely under, a big, microscope right now. They're definitely in the NFL world, but also in the drama TMZ world. Like they are all, around that right now in a big white hot spotlight. So there could definitely be a lot of distractions within the locker room if, Mike Vrabel is, under this any investigation that may happen, may not happen, anything that goes on regarding his character could be a cause of concern going into this season. I do think New England ends up getting back to the playoffs, but you got to look at, the teams in your division. I mean, you got the Dolphins and the Jets. They're probably not going to be
No,
contending
they're
this year,
tanking.
but
They're tanking.
exactly, exactly. But then when you look at the Bills, they're going to be ready to,
Got a
try
new
to get
coach. You don't
back
know
in.
what that's gonna look like.
Exactly. So you're going to try to get back, trying to really compete with New England. But yeah, I definitely think the Patriots are going to get back to the playoffs, but it's just seeing how successful and how consistent they can be.
Right. Okay, so let's go to the Philadelphia side.
Mm,
Obviously, I think AJ Brown was a good wide receiver. He just wasn't getting targets, and I think he created a lot of drama, like reading books, antics on social media. So I think on the Philadelphia side, you got that out of the building. Now let's be clear: all the drama wasn't all on him. All right, you
mm,
had the Hurts, you had Sirianni, that drama as well.
mm,
But look, you still have Makai Lemon, you have Devontae Smith, you have Saquon Barkley. They still have a crew on offense.
mm.
It's good. And, they did it with Holmes. They did it with Josh. They kind of did it with Lamar. How is Jalen Hurts going to do without A.J. Brown? That's going to be the real question. Because, you did have a down season last year. But
Mm.
look, I think it's an overreaction, that statement. Oh, you need the number one. No, I don't think, if you're that guy, I don't think you need a number one wide receiver.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's going to be a big year for Jalen Hurts. It's going to be a big, test for him if he can kind of just, elevate this Eagles offense under a new offensive coordinator, another offensive system that Jalen Hurts needs to learn again. So it's going to be another kind of process for Jalen Hurts. I do think that with the addition of Makai Lemon, you got, the tight end out of Vanderbilt, Eli Stowers to pair with Dallas
You still
Goddard.
have
What
Goddard,
was that?
right?
Yeah, Goddard. Yep. Yeah, you still have, Dallas Goddard. You still have, all the weapons there for the Eagles. So he's definitely going to have a lot of pressure under him. But I think that Jalen Hurts is going to, do really well this season. I do think that he is going to have, maybe not a career year, but he is definitely not going to have a big drop off that maybe some people are thinking of without AJ Brown because it's more complimentary this year. It's not just force feeding number 11 just so he can stay off of social media.
Right. And look, when you look at the division, you still have some questions with the Giants.
Mm,
Um, you know, is the Dallas defense going to be, can they make a stop? Last year
mm,
it was just up and down. It was a track meet. Their only way to win games was by offense. Can that defense take a step forward? So, look, I think the Eagles should be the favorite to win that division.
yeah.
But would it shock me if, say Dallas does? No. And, I had some promise with the Giants, but I am kind of off the bandwagon. And the reason why is because, number one, they signed Odell Beckham Jr. What is this, 2012, 2013? Like, come on, man.
Yeah.
Odell Beckham's been out of the league. We just talked about AJ Brown creating drama. I think he has a lot of noise, headache around him,
Mm,
and that team. And obviously We just had Abdul Carter and Jackson Dart, that little drama, with politics. Is
Hmm.
that going to affect the locker room? Um, Obviously, me, I try to stay out of politics, but it definitely could happen.
Yeah.
And a lot of drama with the Giants right now surrounding that with the politics. But yeah, no, I think the Eagles should be the favorites.
Yeah, no, I mean, it is the Eagles' division to lose because they've won back-to-back, divisions or back-to-back years they've won the division. So I definitely think that the Eagles are still the favorites at this point in time. But th that's just going to be the thing when you look at this offense. And the defense is fine for the Eagles. I think the defense with Vic Fangio, it's going to be fine. It's just how is the offensive system going to work? How are these wide receivers going to be able to be more competitive? That's going to be the biggest thing. If the Eagles offense is unpredictable next year, that's a good thing for, the Eagles and trying to, get back to the Super Bowl. So, but with the rest of the division, I think there's a lot of question marks, but there's also a lot of promise with, guys like Jackson Dart, Cam Scatabo. We'll see what happens there. And then with what was that?
I mean, little concerning with Malik Neighbors. They had like a
Yeah.
softball event. He ran down the line pretty gingerly.
Mm,
Um, that's why I think they've been signing Odell and Juju,
yeah.
Smith-Schuster. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I don't
Mm,
know. I mean, that division. I feel like it's always a new division winner almost every year.
yeah.
And it has been, but the Eagles just went back to back.
Hmm.
Um, okay, let's go to a quarterback that's on his final year of his contract, and that's Baker Mayfield. He said in an interview that him and the GM are not close in making a deal. Um, is that concerning if you're the Bucks?
Yeah, yeah. I think that is concerning. I mean, this is someone who kind of carried that consistency of, getting to the playoffs, for the most part, besides last year. Just getting to the playoffs and being just competitive in the NFC. I mean, that division is, terrible. We can just flat out say it. It's a terrible division, for years now. And knowing that, Tampa Bay has been able to be consistent with Baker Mayfield, he kind of, deserves to have a really good contract. I mean, he's been able to just help out this Tampa Bay team. Yes, they haven't competed for a Super Bowl, but, you still have been able to be, competitive and being a consistent winner and a consistent, division champ. And I think that deserves, a lot of, it deserves a lot of money for Baker Mayfield. I mean, this is when you're looking at Baker Mayfield, this could be his, final big contract. So he is wanting to make something happen and get the money that he deserves. And I definitely think he does deserve it. I mean, he's been bringing, Tampa just, back to the limelight again. And I know out of, last year was kind of a little bit of a slip, but they were dealing with a lot of injuries last year. They were dealing with injuries from Chris Godwin and Mike Evans. When you lose those two guys, it's going to, really impact your team. So I definitely think that it will end up getting done, but it is concerning right now.
Look, right now he's the 16th highest paid quarterback. I like Baker Mayfield. I think he's a good quarterback. But if you're the GM, do you want to pay him probably top of the market 60 million or maybe 55 million, something like that?
Mm,
Do you really want to pay Baker Mayfield like that? Because I don't. And look, I think the Bucks right now, they got a lot of holes. Actually defensively they were kind of a mess. Hopefully they kind of step up this year. But do you really want to pay a guy big money if he's not top guy, as quarterbacks? I don't.
mm. Yeah, no, I mean, I think when I look at these guys getting paid, I know, paying NFL quarterbacks can always be like a tricky conversation. And it's like, if you're not winning consistently, if you're not a Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar, if you're not on those, pedestal quarterbacks, why should you get paid more than them? And, my sort of, viewpoint when it comes to, giving, Baker Mayfield the money is it's that investment and it's that belief in Baker Mayfield to propel your team, because when you're looking at what Baker Mayfield versus the field versus, the quarterbacks that they could get in the draft, there's not a lot of options. There's not a lot of options when it comes to free agency. There's not a lot of options when it comes to, maybe the next NFL draft. We'll see what happens, with Arch Manning and the rest of, those guys in 2027. But that's always, banking on, the potential. It's not banking on what you've already seen. So I think Baker Mayfield, he deserves what, he gets out of him because he's been able to go through this whole journey and being the number one pick and then, kind of, getting shipped out to Carolina, then having a reclamation project in LA. So he's been able to, go around the road and really help Tampa Bay out. But, I'm not the general manager, so I don't make those decisions. But if I was, thinking of trying to invest in a quarterback, I would definitely invest in Baker Mayfield. But that's just how I think.
Yeah, well, I think they will get a deal done. It just depends on how much. And honestly, Baker said in his interview that once training camp starts, contract talk ends because he's
Mm,
focused on ball, which
yeah.
I like that as a quarterback. Um, but I think, I mean, if you're the Bucks, who are you gonna get? If Baker Mayfield's gonna win 8 to 10, 11 games, something like that. He's capable. He's still a very good quarterback.
Hmm.
Now, obviously, he has limitations because he's small, but I kind of like the guy. He was rolling in the beginning of the year, and then he slipped up because there were just a lot of injuries on that Bucks team.
Hmm. Yeah, there was, and he was looking like an MVP candidate. I mean, he has a good supporting cast around him. It's just, staying healthy. And honestly, I think Baker Mayfield needs an offensive centric head coach. I think with having, Todd Bowles is good to, have as, a defensive guy, but I'm not really confident in having like, Todd Bowles like run the whole ship. I know he's been able to be kind of consistent, but if you have an offensive centric head coach, like if you like a Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan type of guy, I think that could really help out Baker. And I think that could really just help him,
Yeah, once he
evolve and
lost Liam Cohen, uh,
right.
to the Jags, he definitely slipped. Look, I'm with you. I'm not a Todd Bowles guy.
Hmm.
Um, he's more of a coordinator than a head coach. That's just
Yeah.
how I feel. So yeah, no, Baker has to prove. Hopefully, he gets a contract because I kind of like Baker. I'm rooting for him.
Yeah. Yeah. Same here.
Okay, let's go to a quarterback that just retired, Russell Wilson. He confirmed, he posted a video that he's retiring from the NFL and he's going to CBS. He's joining CBS. Um, First of all, what do you make of that? And yeah, no, what do you make of it?
Honestly, I mean, it's, kind of a decision that we've seen with multiple guys now. I mean, we've seen, Matt Ryan, kind of went into CBS and then he went back into, the front office with Atlanta. And I mean, Russell Wilson, I still think he had, a little bit in him. I think his career, just kind of talking about his career, I know you may be shaking your head, but I still think like when it comes to Russell Wilson and just his whole career, it was just kind of like it just was a roller coaster. I mean, it was, the start of his career was so good. He was able to kind of come on the scene with Seattle and, win a Super Bowl, almost win, back-to-back Super Bowls if Pete Carroll doesn't make the idiotic decision to pass the ball on the 1 yard line. But when we look at just kind of Russell Wilson as a quarterback, I mean, he was a consistent guy. He was, getting it done. And then when he went to Denver, it's just everything fell apart. It fell apart. And then he just kind of, lost a step. He lost like a big step. And then that kind of just derailed his career. But when it comes to him, being an analyst and he feels that's the, best thing for him, it's going to be interesting to see what kind of knowledge he can bring going through like being a Super Bowl winning quarterback, but also going through that adversity that he did late in his career.
Yeah, look, I've been a big time hater of Russell Wilson the last 4 years. I thought he was corny. His production was not good.
Mm,
I will say this. He had an offer to go to the New York Jets. He declined. That's why he went to CBS.
mm,
And look, I agree with him. Why would you go to the New York Jets? They're a joke, and why ruin, you know, maybe a Hall of Fame career. You're
Yeah.
only jeopardizing your stats and etc. So that's number one. Number two, look, when he was in Seattle, he was good. He was really good. People were saying, "Yep, he's a lock to be a Hall of Famer." And look, obviously he had the Legion of Boom. He had Marshawn Lynch behind him, but he was a big time reason why they won a Super Bowl. Don't just say, "Hey, the Legion of Boom," because
Yeah.
Russell made plays. When they needed to be. He's the Super Bowl champion. He could have had two. You say it was a bad play. It was just a well executed play by the Patriots. Um,
Hmm.
so look, we can debate he's a Hall of Famer or not. Look, I think he's a better quarterback than Eli Manning. Even though Eli Manning, he had two Super Bowls, he beat Tom Brady twice. But let's be honest, Eli Manning was just not a good quarterback.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I mean he was a good quarterback. Just the last when he left Seattle, everything just went downhill.
Yeah, no, I definitely think I think when you look at just kind of the career of Russell Wilson, you kind of just gotta, take it all in. I feel like a lot of people are gonna look at his like drop off and they're gonna be like, oh, that's what we remember Russell Wilson. It's like I'm gonna take everything. I'm gonna take everything that he's done, winning a Super Bowl and being a consistent winner in Seattle and, someone who was able to be at the top of the league at one point and it just he ran into unfortunate circumstances, lost a step, and now here we are now, and we'll see what he does in broadcasting. So I'm excited to see what he can kind of bring to that realm, something that we're both trying to slowly get ourselves in.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think he'll be a good analyst. I mean, look,
Yeah.
he was all in on football. He loved football, and obviously he does corny stuff, but I genuinely do think that he did love football, and
Hmm.
I think he'll be a good analyst. Obviously, um, hopefully he'll be a better analyst than Tom Brady.
Yeah.
But obviously, joking aside, I hope he does well, and I'm not in love with the CBS crew. Hopefully, he
Mhm.
can bring some juice to that crew.
For sure, for sure. No, it's gonna be interesting to see what he can kind of bring, like his knowledge of the game as well, and working under a lot of different coaches. I think that can really be impactful, especially to the CBS crew that like what you were mentioning. Like, it's not like when I go and try to tune into the pregame shows and whatever. I'm always I'm a big like I'm gonna go to NFL Fox, so I'm not gonna be going to CBS, but I'm definitely interested to see what he can bring.
Yeah, I just turn on the games at 1 o'clock.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't really watch the pregame shows. But last subject, Caleb Williams, he's on the cover of Madden 27.
Mm,
There's always this Madden curse. I don't believe in that, but I do think there's going to be a lot of pressure on him this season. He made some wild plays in the postseason, a lot of comebacks, but now I just think he needs to be more consistent through the first 3 quarters.
hmm.
Do you think there's going to be a lot of pressure on him just because, I think the Chicago Bears, they are, to me, a Super Bowl contender.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to definitely be more pressure on Caleb Williams. I think he needs to start being a little bit more, you know, just a little bit more. I always say consistent. I'm trying to think of a different word, but just being more like just flat line, I guess, if that makes sense. Like just being, a more straight line and not just so high and low. Because it seems like there's halves where, the Chicago Bears are coming back from a 20-point deficit, and then it's like, oh, why were they in that 20-point deficit? It's because Caleb Williams was throwing two interceptions off his back foot. It's like you got to make sure that you can be more, you know, consistent as a quarterback and just more of a straight arrow type of guy. So we'll definitely see what Caleb Williams can do. But being on the Madden cover, with the whole thing about the Madden curse, and yes, is it real, is it not, a lot of people have been very controversial when it comes to that. But I think Caleb Williams is going to have a big spotlight on him, and we'll see what he can bring to Chicago, because he's going to have to do it again in this year, because he wants to make sure that the city of Chicago, with moving to Indiana, yeah, they want to make sure that they can get close to a Super Bowl as best as they possible can.
Alex, it's okay to stay consistent. I say it all the
Yeah,
time. Just stay consistent.
yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, look, I mean, that division is still good. The NFC North, uh, you look at that Detroit schedule. That Detroit schedule is not good. You have Green Bay. I thought they should have beat Chicago three times in that this season, but they just kind of choked at the end of the final two meetings that they had. Um, it's just going to be interesting with the Bears. If that defense is improved, watch out, because I think Ben Johnson, I like him a lot as a head coach. I think he's an offensive genius. So I'm
Mhm.
excited to see what the Bears look like.
Yeah, and I mean in that division, I think when you look at, all of those teams, I mean, I know Vikings are kind of going through, whatever at the quarterback position, but when you look at Detroit, they are still a team that could, win 12 to 13 games. You have the Packers who are there who was, one of the highlights of last year with Micah Parsons and also with the Chicago Bears games. Like all three of those games were very entertaining for and they could go back and forth either way. So, really interesting to see how those dynamics are able to come this time because no one's going to be surprised of the Bears like they were this year. Like they are going to be on everybody's radar, especially in that division. And I think the NFC North is going to be very competitive this year.
Absolutely, absolutely. Um, Hey, I think we have 3 more months until football. I think we passed the 100-day marker.
Yep.
Um, I'm already getting goosebumps. I'm ready for football, but I'm
Hmm.
also like, yeah, I'm going to enjoy this summer. And
Yeah.
I just want to say thank you for coming on the show. And if anyone's watching, please like and subscribe.
Yeah.
And
Appreciate
Alex,
it.
yeah, no, I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Talk to you soon. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.